1976, Atari Incorporated began developing a home video game console codenamed Stella. Released a year later as the Atari Video Computer System, and later rebranded by its model number as the Atari 2600, it would become the first successful video game system. To cut costs, Atari used custom hardware and stripped-down components, which made Stella highly unstable and extremely difficult to program. By 1978, only half of the units Atari had produced had been sold. Atari was ready to claim the system as a failure, but game programmers toiled to get more performance out of Stella's incomplete hardware. Eventually, they accomplished things that even Atari's own engineers didn't think were possible. The first victory came in 1979, when Atari acquired the license to the smash arcade hit, Space Invaders. But Stella wasn't ready for the big time just yet. The 2600's television interface adapter was designed to support Atari's two most popular titles, Pong and Tanks. Both Pong and Tanks had only 5 objects on screen at any time, so the TIA was equipped to handle only 5 objects at once. But Space Invaders had over a dozen aliens on screen, as well as the barriers, the player's spaceship, and laser blasts. The solution was a process that was later dubbed Racing the Beam. Stella's stripped-down central processor lacked the pins that prevented a program from altering an image while it was drawn to the TV screen. The 2600's TIA drew the image to the screen 1 row of pixels at a time. By changing the line of pixels precisely as the TIA finished drawing a line, the programmers of Space Invaders were able to draw rows of alien invaders as a single object. This allowed other objects to be used for the barriers, the player's spaceship, the laser blasts, and score display. When Space Invaders arrived on the 2600 in 1980, the public clamored for a chance to bring the arcade classic into their living room.
Discover the Atari that opened your eyes to the world's most popular home video games like Space Invaders.
Stella was now a superstar, going from just over 550,000 units in 1978 to over 3 million by the end of 1980. A hallmark of many Atari games was the bright palette of rainbow colors and flashing rainbow effects. This was a very common trick that gave Stella a vivid, eye-catching appeal. Normally, a computer's central processor does not allow a program to alter an image as it's drawn to the screen, but Stella's stripped-down processor had no such safeguard. Programmers tediously timed their code so that each pixel, line, or frame could change color as the 2600 drew it. This was an effect that other systems' processors wouldn't allow. Atari 2600 ports of arcade games almost always had an extra colorful flair to them. Activision, arguably the most visible and successful game company of the time, used this effect so much that it became synonymous with their brand, appearing on many of their game packages and even some versions of their logo. By 1982, Stella was in over 10 million homes across the globe. The 2600's catalog included some of the most influential games in the history of the medium, including Pac-Man, Breakout, Pitfall, Adventure, and Yar's Revenge. Since its official retirement in 1992, the Atari 2600 has held the record as the longest-running video game system ever. Stella, the flawed little machine that could. A stripped-down, unstable mess. The bane of programmers everywhere. And the living room would never be the same again.